Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Alien versus Predator Galaxy podcast, the original Alien and Predator podcast. This is regular host Aaron Percival, and joining me are my fellow heart-eating Predator enthusiasts.
Adam Zeller, aka RidgeTop. I think only you get to eat the hearts, though. You just pay us to hunt them down for you.
Well, if that's the dynamic you want to go for with this episode, then by all means. Who else is with us?
Greg, also known as still collating, a lonely, low-life mercenary going out for Yautja hearts.
And Hunter, TheXenoPlays. Also, I guess Crab now. I'm the last one.
Do you guys? Well, Greg can be beta company if we're going to go lowly. He can be the reserves that show up at the end of the comic. Adam can die to the first wave if he wants.
Damn,
I'll be
alright.
the fodder off-screen kills, just the backstage bloodstains. Yeah.
Who did you say you were, Hunter?
He's the hacker guy.
I'm the Oracle, the Crab.
No, the techno pagan. That's not what they called them.
Yes.
I thought that was a hilarious name. Just to go off on a tangent already, it reminded me of the techno mages from Babylon 5. I always thought that was a hilarious concept and a hilarious name, but you're all going to tell me none of you have seen Babylon 5 now, aren't you?
I plan to. I heard it's fantastic. I plan to, but I have no idea what you're talking about.
I mean, I've heard of Babylon 5, the sci-fi channel, right?
I'm just disappointed. Bunch of sci-fi nerds.
Story of Aaron's life being disappointed.
You know what? It's sad to say, but yes, it's pretty much true. I forget what show it is, but there was a quote from a show or a film or something where one of the characters is like, "I expect so little, yet I'm always disappointed," and yeah, that pretty much sums up my existence. Anyway, welcome to episode 235. All being well, this will be 235 of the AvP Galaxy podcast. If you are listening to this in December, this means I've put out an episode every single week this month, and that's 5 weeks in this month. I'm proud of myself for this one, and if this is indeed gone out as it should have done, this is our customary last episode of the year. Adam, what do we do as a last episode of the year?
So we have a nice little tradition in recent years where December is AvP month. So we at least have to do one AvP related comic. Aaron, is AvP is December AvP month in honor of that one AvP movie that came out on Christmas that was really good that I got to go see on Christmas morning? Is that where this originates from?
You know what? I genuinely have no idea where this came from. It was just decided one year that where it was like, you know what, we'll end the year talking AvP since we don't get to talk about AvP as a concept, as a series that often throughout the year. You know, the time of the crossover being king is long gone.
Hopefully it will make its return before we know it.
Every fucking year. Every year I hear this man go,
oh, come on. You know there's been signs.
No.
We saw a Predator movie this year with Waylon Yutani.
We certainly did, Adam. But have you not for the last 5 years or so, or however long since Marvel took over, been like, next year? I feel it in my bones next year.
Well, they're actually starting to talk about it now. Fede talked about it. Aspel talked about it. Things be cooking, I think.
Mm-hmm. Same as next game show. We'll get Fire Team 2 announcement.
See, I let you be disappointed, but you don't let me be hopeful.
Hey, you know what?
This is why I'm disappointed, because some people out there are like, hope next time.
He's the passionate. He's the passionate sports fan. He's like, this year is gonna be our year. This will be it. So let the man hope.
I mean, come on. All right, AvP is coming back eventually, and you know.
Oh, absolutely, it's coming back eventually. I'm just not gonna. I'm not gonna make predictions on it. That's all.
A broken clock is right twice can't be right twice a day. So eventually, one of these years, it's gonna be
Oh,
it.
it's absolutely coming, and we are building up to it. I'm less confident about it now. As much as I like Badlands, I think at this point it's still not cracked 200, has it? I don't think so.
It's
It
gotten
is not.
close.
It is not. It is like 180 something. I don't think it's 190 yet. I need to check, but it's certainly not 200.
Well,
Unfortunately.
Adam's checking as we're talking. But with it not being the same sort of runaway success that Romulus was, I'm less confident. I still think
Oh,
it's likely.
I am so like, I don't know. I've seen this going around that Badlands is not doing well. I'm like, it's almost made 181 million, which is a franchise record. It did 10 million
When
over
adjusted
studio
for
expectations
inflation.
on first weekend. I know, but still, like,
No, it's still
yes, it
not.
was an expensive ass movie to make, but they're going to measure it in terms of critical reception and in terms of box office strength. And in both of those, it is a fucking franchise best. So I don't see it as a disappointment. I think it did really well. Yeah, it didn't pull in those Romulus numbers, but again, that was almost all China. Like if you take
It
China
was
out
not
of the
all China.
equation, that
It was like a
Romulus had this
third China.
crazy runaway in China. No, it was a huge percentage Romulus in China. Badlands really is
It
not
was.
that far behind Romulus if you take China out of the equation.
Well,
But
why would
Badlands
we?
for whatever reason did not do well in China at all. It was like 5
Now,
million, something like that.
remember, I like Badlands. I'm not saying it's a disappointment. I'm just pragmatic. We've just established this.
I think the studio will see it as a success, and as soon as it hits streaming, I think it'll do numbers. I think the Blu-ray will do really well, just like Prey did. So
I hope so. I hope so. I'm just not as confident now. But because of that limited amount of AvP product that comes out, it became a tradition, I suppose, that we would get to at least purposefully talk about something AvP. Over the years, we've done the original series, we've done War, we've done three World War, we did the Rage War, we did Deadliest of
wars.
Species last year.
Yes, we did.
Did you say a lot of wars?
Yeah, no Rift War though. We
No
still gotta do
Rift
that
War.
one.
Have you read that yet?
No, I'm waiting on you. Waiting for us to schedule that podcast.
What a bullshit. So you do not read any of the product unless I decide we're
I
reviewing
mean, if I'm
it.
gonna
Is that
read
what
them,
you're
I might
telling
as
me?
well wait until like I'm prepping for the podcast, so I don't have to read them twice.
Jesus. Fuck me. That is...
I mean, you always read them twice, don't you?
I read them far more than twice. This is a fake fan right here. Adam has just shown his true colors.
Have you
right
seen
now.
how many AvP books there are, dude? Or Alien Predator and AvP books?
Yeah.
Like, I don't got
I've read
time
that.
to read those novels multiple times. They're long.
Oh, no, they're not.
It's a
Like
it's a
300
strategic
pages
choice.
on average, dude. I don't know.
You think that's a long book?
I mean, these days with the attention spans being what they are, maybe. I don't know.
We're too old for this excuse of youngsters with a short. You've never read Dune, have you?
No, I haven't.
No,
It's
of
on my
course
shelf
you
though.
haven't.
Yeah.
I have. A short attention span gone here.
And it is the Gen Xer. Wait, is it Gen X?
No, it's
Yeah,
Gen Z.
I'm Gen
Gen
Z.
And
Z.
he's not. He's
Gen
right on
Z.
the borderline. Technically, I think you're millennial
I'm
by
on
the last year.
I'm on the cusp. I'm on the cusp.
Adam's trying
Yeah.
to deny your Gen Z status, Hunter. This is some
I'm just saying,
gatekeeping bullshit.
No, Google the years where it's the millennial age ranges, and I think he falls in the last one.
Yes, both of us are on that range. So yeah, it's millennial to Gen Z.
Greg and I are the same age, so
Yep.
you know, yeah.
Well, whichever one you want to claim, I guess.
So, Adam, how many times have you read this comic? Over
Okay,
the
so
years,
since
then,
it's a
please?
comic, I've actually read this one a number of times, given this is one of my favorites, if not maybe my favorite. Maybe
we haven't said which.
Okay, AvP Eternal. So this was a comic that came out in what, the late 90s? Let's see.
98.
1998.
Yeah. So here we go. This was actually my first, for those of you listening, I'm holding up the graphic novel version, the paperback release of
The old Dark Horse trade.
Yep. And it's signed by the writer here, who was kind enough to sign it for us, thanks to Aaron, who sent it his way in Edginton.
You know what? I meant to get mine down, actually. It's behind me on the wall. I have on the back the first issue, which was signed by Ian. And I think I've got the 4th issue signed by Ian somewhere to use as a giveaway at some point. Yes, we are talking AvP Eternal. Adam apparently reads the comics multiple times. I guess it takes less time.
Man, Aaron's just always on my case. But yes, I love this comic. It is a very cool near future AvP comic. And it was right as AvP was really ramping up, I think, because the first AvP was what, early 90s, right? So
Mm.
Dark Horse
Well,
was doing
I would say this was actually towards the end of Dark Horse's first golden age, as I like to call it. It was
Yes.
they stopped publishing around about 99, 2000.
That's right. It
Xenogenesis,
was,
correct?
yeah, that was the
Yes.
last one until we had the 3 World War comeback, I think.
Yes, the last proper series. I mean, we had the digest ones that I think you enjoy them, don't you? Thrill of the Hunt and
Yeah.
Civilized Beasts.
Yeah, more so Civilized Beasts, but
Yes.
those I
same.
found were pretty good. Yeah, this
Well,
was, I think, the first graphic novel I bought of AvP. I remember getting it. I believe it was San Francisco at Things from Another World, which is a really cool comic book shop. Not there anymore, at least not that location. Still in Los Angeles, and I believe they're headquartered up in Portland, right next. I think they're neighbors with Dark Horse. Um, so yeah, I mean, this was one of the first kind of big comics that got me into AvP when I was younger.
Greg, how about you? When was your first encounter with this one? And your general thoughts on it? I guess Adam's already dropped the info that it's one of his favorite, possibly his favorite.
So I don't exactly remember when was the first time I came across this particular comic, but I think it was generally when I was getting into the fandom and I was just binging all the media I could find and just going through the comics. Uh, it was probably there that I just a la carte just zipped through most of the titles, but this one always kind of stood out for multiple reasons. First, they say don't judge a book by its cover, but I don't know. I'm a visual person. For both the novels and the comics, a good cover is just something that gets burned into my memory, and it just sets up my expectations and my appreciation for what I'm going to get out of this experience. And then also the internal art and story. I thought it was very unique. And I don't know if I would call it my favorite, maybe. I think the first run is just so brilliant that that probably takes the first spot for me. But this would be the second. This would be then my second favorite, actually. Uh, Aliens vs Predator comic, very close to Dark Horse's also last run, uh, which
Thicker than blood.
thicker than blood, yes, but yeah, I would probably put that in third place. But yeah, AvP Eternal, I would put it second for me. I really enjoyed it, and uh, I haven't reread it too many times, so coming back to rereading it for this review, it kind of brought back some memories in the sense of why I enjoyed it so much in the first place. And there's just this sense of both art direction, so just the style that was used at that time for the visuals and the writing style. It's so different than what the comics are nowadays, which there are a lot of interesting and good ones still coming out, and I'm very excited for the future there. But there was just something very distinct and special and different from those late 80s all the way through the 90s type of comics that I think that's just something that we can't really see again. So it's a beautiful kind of time capsule. I adored the world building, and just the final thought there. I think the comic is a perfect example of how you don't need to show too much predator or even alien action, but you feel their presence throughout. So that's something we can get into later with the details, but that's something that kind of reminded me why this worked so well with its limited tools.
How about yourself, Hunter?
Yeah, so I actually remember this pretty well. So I was around. I was introduced to AvP Eternal when I was about 7 years old. It was at my local childhood comic book store. I was taking a yo-yo class for whatever reason. I don't know why, but next to the yo-yo store was a comic book store, and it was around 2003, right before AvP came out, and they had a wall of all these single issues from Dark Horse that you could pick through. And I remember I couldn't. I remember that fungi-like appearance of the cover for issue one, and it just really struck a chord with me. Then a few years ago, like many fans who dive into the EU, I eventually landed on Eternal after reading the OG comics, War, so forth, um, in the omnibus. And I was genuinely surprised by how Eternal consumed me, because in some regards, it's an AvP story that is much more of a predator-centric plot, using the aliens as a conduit to form our antagonist. And and now just rereading it for this podcast, as outlandish as some of these villainous CEOs come off in comics, corrupt entrepreneurs and philanthropists, they're nothing new to the AvP, but especially right now in the state of the world, currently with the tech billionaires and news media outlets striving for credibility, I felt like the antagonist of this story was more omnipresent than ever. And I think the comic now, 27 years later, kind of stands the test of time.
That's funny because I never connected that apart. I'm not gonna lie, Hunter, but yeah, absolutely fair, and I'm looking forward to hearing you talk about that a bit more as we go on. Uh,
Sure.
like Adam, this was the first AvP comic I purchased myself. It wasn't the first I read. The first I read was the original. I still to this day remember one of my best mates at the time, buying the comic, buying AvP off Amazon, buying AvP War the novel off Amazon, with his mum's credit card when we were like 15 years old, and sitting at home and sitting at his home and reading them, and I'm burning through the novelization of War while he's reading the OG comic, but this Eternal was the first one I purchased for myself, and I still remember, like Adam, where I got it from, when I got it from. It was a school trip to Sheffield Meadowhall, which is a big mall in the UK, I suppose. And they had a nerd shop in what they call the Lanes, which is now long gone, unfortunately. But I remember spending what little money I had on the trade of AvP Eternal and would it have been a trade of Predator Helen Hot Water, whatever that one is. I can't remember I think it's Hot Water. But there was like a collected version of that, and I brought both of those. So, Eternal was the first I purchased for myself with my own money as a kid. And I don't want to say that's what gives it a special place in my heart, because AvP Aliens Labyrinth was the first comic I brought, and as a kid, I didn't like it. I didn't like Labyrinth. I do now. I fucking love that now. I adore the comic now, but as a kid, I didn't. So it's not one that sort of holds a nostalgia factor for me. And I wouldn't say Eternal holds a nostalgia factor for me because of that, but it is still one I remember fondly. Like Hunter says, it is most accessible now, or was later in the smaller AvP omnibus that Dark Horse did. I don't have my trade, unfortunately, anymore. There was a brief period after AvP came out where I fell out with the franchise and I gave a load of everything away, and had a big tantrum with the.
Wait, after the AvP movie?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know you had that reaction to it as well at first.
I had a tantrum. Gave a load of stuff away. Regretted it. Brought a load of stuff again, but I never ended up getting the Dark Horse trades back again. But I have the omnibus, so this is how I have reread Eternal many times over the years in this small A5 sized comic book. I'm waiting for Dark Horse to do that big trade, the big omnibus, so I can enjoy it in big size again. Did I say Dark Horse? I mean Marvel.
Yeah. And that kind of leads back to wanting the return of AvP again, because I don't think it would just be on the screen. I think it would be them re-releasing a lot of these older comics, which haven't they've been out of print for a long time, including this one. Like, you can't even buy it digitally, but Marvel has been going back and re-releasing the older Alien and Predator comics, most of them anyway, digitally and collected in both the omnibus releases and the Epic Collection releases.
And when we get that omnibus collection is when we'll get a new AvP series from Marvel. And I hope it comes. I hope it comes soon. But like you guys, it is one of my favorite AvP series. I think I would agree with Greg's listing. Classic first, Eternal second, Thicker Than Blood third. I fucking love Thicker Than Blood. All three of those, I genuinely love those series.
See, it's hard for me to pick between those three: the OG, this, and Thicker Than Blood. So I guess, like, the first AvP comic, this one, which was maybe right in the middle, and then the one that they ended on, I thought were among the strongest for me.
Absolutely. That's not to say there aren't a couple of moments in it where I'm like, or ooh. But in general, it is a fantastic series. Let's go through the credits a little bit here. So it was written by Ian Edginton. Ian wrote a lot of significant Alien and Predator comics over his tenure at Dark Horse. He is responsible for the creation of the Alien King. Obviously, in this, he's responsible for the idea of predator hearts or physiology, elongating human life. He created Eloise, who has become quite, I think, relevant of late thanks to Wendy. I nearly forgot her name then. But yeah, Ian's done a lot of awesome things over the years. It was penciled and inked by Alex Maleev, who went on to be a bit of an industry, a heavy hitter in the industry. I don't think he did a great deal of Alien stuff. He wrote and penned Old Secrets, which was a short. I think that was about the dragon thing in Wales. The myth of St. George. St. George and the Dragon. Alex Maleev wrote that and inked that. He also did the interior artwork for Superman vs. Predator. And that was it, really. Did some cover artwork for some other series over the years. But this is Alex's main contribution to the franchise. Colours were by Perry McNamee, and Dan Jackson did some on the last issue. And the covers, which were talked about, were by Glenn Fabry.
And Glenn Fabry would return in the late 2010s to do the covers of the Predator versus Judge Dredd versus Aliens Splice and Dice run, which also had some very striking covers. This one, I don't believe, had any variant covers. It was just the main ones we got, but really good covers on this run.
Yes, absolutely. And they became, I think, quite iconic imagery for the Alien versus Predator specifically. The one that's on the cover of both the trade that you have, Adam, and that's on the cover of AvP, the first omnibus that Dark Horse did. This wasn't one of the covers for the first series. It was Eternal. The cover for the first issue that I've got on the wall behind me, that was on so many posters. I have a poster somewhere of that cover, and that was a fantastic. The OG one, issue 1, with the alien's reflection in the wrist blades. But yeah, it's iconic stuff. And Hunter, you described it earlier. How?
I described it like it's fungi like, and its appearance.
Fungi, as in kind of fungus.
Yeah, like fungus, very organic in the way. I mean,
Infected.
the color tones, especially in issue 1 of the Predator, you have the blues, the reds, the yellows, the multicolored look, and also there's this bubbly texture to both the alien and the Predator, which I thought was very funky like.
It looks kind of
That
decaying in a way as well.
Absolutely.
that was not a description that first kind of would come to my mind, but I think it perfectly fits. It's actually very accurate in that sense. Like you said, those colors and textures, it's very unique amongst the covers that we've generally had. And again, Alien and Predator and Alien versus Predator, we've had fantastic artists over the years and fantastic cover artists. But these covers for this series in particular, plus for me the covers for the original 3 novelizations of the comics, the Steve Perry novelizations, those covers along with the covers of these kind of comics, those are some that just stick into my mind when anything is something of that kind of painting quality, uh, for my eyes and my aesthetic tastes, that just it sears deep into my mind. So, uh, as I said, no wonder that those covers are used as representations on even the omnibus that are one of the best examples that we have right now.
So why don't we start with, I guess, the center of this story, which would be Gideon Lee. You mentioned him as an antagonist, Aaron, but I do wonder if this story actually has an antagonist. I mean, we do start with him finding this. We're almost following him as much as we are following the reporter, McBride, right? What's her name? And
Rebecca
even in the
McBride.
end, after he dies, he still wires money to her, and she kind of has to face her own choices in putting her reporter in that situation. I don't know if anyone's really fully a good or bad guy in this story.
He's absolutely a bad guy. just because we're following
I
him does
mean,
not make
he's
him a
not,
good
as
guy.
he says, he's not an honorable man, and but I don't know. He was just trying
Well,
to live forever for an opportunity that was presented in front of him. And yeah, he's a swindler in the beginning for sure. But I mean, you can still have, I guess, protagonists that are bad people in stories. Like, so
when
it's like he's
when
not really against the reporter. She's like, okay, sure, whatever, and he still pays her in the end.
Well, he just wanted to use her as his immortality legacy in case his juicing up with bread organs doesn't work. So she was his conduit to an alternative kind of immortality that's a bit more common and quaint immortality and legacy and writings.
Do you think she
Uh,
ever actually writes that book though, since he's dead?
I could imagine she got the money and like, oh, I don't have to do this now. Screw him. So
I, I
that would be interesting to see.
I see your point, but I also think there's that moment where Gideon watches his scientist plead for mercy and watches him be
True.
face hugged and was like, it's prospering the advancement. So I mean
I mean,
that for
he's
me
not
is
a good guy, don't get me wrong. I
no, no,
just
no.
didn't see him as an antagonist in the story.
Yeah,
if you
he's an anti-hero that we're kind of following. I agree on that sentiment that we're almost kind of more following his story and his perspective than McBride's, really. But yeah, in the sense of like who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, he's a goddamn bastard. There's nothing there's nothing to be uh, grade about that. Chasing after immortality, all fine, understood the age-old human question, but like he lets his people die. He's done horrible things for his own advancement, but yeah, it was interesting to follow him in that sense. I think opening the comic in such a way with him front and center, I think again that's one of the uniquenesses of this comic, just having such a unique opening. You're you're basing it off of a bad guy that's on a completely new type of quest that we haven't seen in the Alien and Predator universe up until that point.
I wouldn't want to argue over semantics over the term protagonist or main character or anything, because he is absolutely a bad guy. Not just in terms of what Hunter said, but everything he says in this. He orchestrates the death of the cameraman, Becca's cameraman. He orchestrates that whole situation to manipulate Rebecca into a situation or test her, so to speak. I think
And
he said.
I was surprised by that because you see the cameraman in the heat vision, and I was thinking, oh, it looks like he has an RPG or something. So did they unintentionally kill him? And the Major Cabot never brings it up like, oh, we were specifically ordered to kill him later. And so when Gideon just throws that out there, I'm like, huh, that was weird. I always kind of took it as like unintentional. Not to mention when we see that team at the end of the intro part in that African region, and they all take their masks off. I didn't recognize Major Cabot there because when he appears in the next scene, I'm like, wait, who's this guy? When I originally read it. So
Agreed.
that was kind of an odd transition there.
Yeah,
when they mentioned him later on, like when the reporter says, "Oh, it was you," I was like, "Huh?"
I'm like, did
was
he shave his head during the operation or something? Like, it just does not look like him in that last shot there before the transition.
It was
it's
probably just the suit.
and it's the heavy use of shadows throughout the series as well, which is one of its strengths, in my opinion. And also that moment that Adam's talking about, when I wish I could remember how I felt as a kid reading this for the first time, where it's set up as being these predators, and then they reveal that it's humans in predatorish technology is a moment I love because I've spoken in the past. I must have brought this up when we were talking the Predator around those days, but I love the idea of humans utilizing and adapting predator technology because of course we're going to do it. Of course we are. And it's a big plot point in Concrete Jungle and stuff like that. And it's something that I think Eternal in particular does very well, but while still holding some restraint. When we get to Eternal and them actually getting into the Predator's cargo hold, it's been how old's Gideon? Is he like 600, 700 years old?
700
Yeah.
years, yeah.
It's taken him 700 years to still get through that Predator ship. That ship still has secrets that he has not cracked and his people have not cracked after 700 years. And I like that. It's a nice part of, yes, they might be able to utilize the stealth suits in some capacity. They might be able to use the shoulder cannons and the infrared sort of stuff. But there's still elements of it that are a mystery to him. So it was nice to see that the Predators weren't an open book to Gideon.
And this series had some major contributions to the series lore. Aaron, you mentioned the idea of humans utilizing and reverse engineering, stealing predator tech, and appearing in stealth suits and stuff like that. And Concrete Jungle. I mean, Concrete Jungle also used another major plot point, which I believe was first introduced here, which is the idea of predator vampirism. It's like humans drinking predator blood to essentially, or infusing it into their bodies to extend their life by many, many years. And this is something that, again, would be used by Concrete Jungle, but other things as well. More recently, like Predator Hunting Grounds kind of brought up the idea. And I believe there have even been some other comics that have there been, or has it only been Concrete Jungle and
The
Xenogenesis.
Xenogenesis features the return of Subutai, who was the character mentioned in here, who Gideon had said was the first character to defeat the Predator and eat its heart. But that was another Ian Edginton thing. What was Strange Rue? That was the one where you have characters eating a predator, isn't it? But I don't think that's anything to do with
extending life or anything.
Yeah.
So it's popped up here and there, but it is a very intriguing part of Predator lore, I would say, which was started with this comic.
I do wonder if where Subutai comes into this story, because my first thought is, why would Gideon just randomly eat the heart of one of these predators corpses showing up, and then Gideon's like, There is an ancient tale of Subutai, a noble samurai who bested a predator in combat, ate its heart in triumph. Subutai was over 200 years old when he died. So I'm like, okay, so did he put 2 and 2 together and then decide to eat the hearts of the predator corpses?
He could have heard of this samurai who ate the heart of a god or whatever, and oh, here are gods, I'm dying, let's try it, whatever. So, but yeah, it is a very quick transition from him in that situation in ancient feudal Japan on death's door to suddenly he's this billionaire living in this tower in Japan in the nearish future, I guess. Which
There
I
was
find it,
never any date in the
yeah, but
comic.
it kind of seemed like a few decades into the 2000s, kind of a time, and it is an interesting time for these stories. I think. I mean, there was the AvP 3 script that was kind of a near future setting in Africa, right? So
A treatment.
I
Yeah, it was
yeah,
Liam O'Donnell's treatment that was like the 20. I think we've gone past the point. I think it was like 2025 or something
the
like that.
future from back then, right?
Yeah.
I tried when we got those details in the intro. I tried dating it to see like what are the inspirations. When first the name of the West African country, I was like, this sounds familiar, but something is different. And then when I saw it was clearly a kind of fictional country combined Gambia and Namibia, though in one issue there's an I that's missing, so it's more closer to Gambia instead of the Gamibia, what it's fictionally kind of named here. And also it said this is 30 years after it gained independence, and then I watched that date and so it's 1990 something. Okay. But then the reporter kind of mentions that the Japanese economy crisis, bubbling, exploding, etc., which was in the 2000s around that crash. Okay, so we're a little further along, but she says it's in 19. So I was like, is this 2019 or something? So my last kind of assessment there that it's probably 2025 ish in
Yeah, I
the
mean,
date
because
that
what
I'm
else? What other 19 could it be, right?
Yeah, unless we're going into a very sped up past 20th century.
There is an element. There was a comment in it that I did think dated it though, and that was what did she call it? A BSE burger, bovine spongiform something, mad cow disease.
Ah, yeah.
And that was like a big thing in the late 90s, wasn't it? So relevant at the time, but it kind of dates it a little bit in terms of the you know when you just see those modern influences as he's writing it, and yeah, it's an indeterminate amount of time into into the early 21st century, but it looks
But
good.
yeah,
It,
those elements are uh, really contribute to the vibe. I mean, the instances of hacker culture, like globetrotting adventure here, even a little cyberpunk feeling to the city, I think, which were popular with things like Ghost in the Shell at the time, late 90s, early 2000s, and stuff like that. So I think it's a different and intriguing setting for AvP, which sometimes it's just future, another planet, it's an alien story with predators, and you have a big battle. This one was a lot more subtle, I thought. And all the battles were kind of in the shadows. We see the aliens creating a hive in the sewers, which also a recurring plot element we've seen in a number of the other stories. Um,
well,
so
that was
yeah,
something I wanted to ask you all about, actually, though, was that Earth setting. Adam, I think you mentioned when we spoke to Ian, um, how AvP and AvPR were very criticized for being Earth, being contemporary Earth, whereas this comic that we absolutely fucking adore, yes, it's near future, but it's still contemporary-ish, and it's still Earth. So, how did you all feel about the setting? Adam, I cut you off there, so by all means, please start this one off.
no, again, I liked the setting because it felt like a setting that was not very explored within the franchise at the time in the near future. So I was pretty intrigued by that setting for the franchise. I mean, at that time we still hadn't had the Alien prequels or anything like that, which are still like late 21st century, so not really in this time frame. Same with Alien Earth. So that kind of first half of the 21st century, I think, is a really interesting time to explore for the franchise, where you can still have things feel very futuristic and go into that kind of like cyberpunk Blade Runner-esque feel, but still explore something that feels like it belongs in the Alien and Predator universe.
Yeah, that's one point I did want to bring up. So you guys have spoken about the cyberpunk atmosphere of this, and revisiting the episode years ago when you guys spoke with Ian, that was a question. Why does this AVP adaptation succeed, on Earth while some others didn't do that so well, and that brought the subject of it being a cyberpunk atmosphere, a new urban landscape, Japan that had never been explored before, and I think that it works really well. And obviously, you can see some traces of the '90s in the setting, but it it feels timeless in the sense of just the technology being used against both Alien and Predator. And it makes me feel like this could be set in 2025, 1999, 1998, 1999, whenever, because it has that same effect that, say, Blade Runner does, where you can date it, but you can't date it. It's a double-edged sword.
Uh, Regarding the timeline, like when is it set? Yes, on some level, it worked. Whether it is the late 90s, 2020s, it doesn't matter too much. Uh, Having that focus on the urban environments, on making it kind of universally timeless. It just then works. It's not like in this little urban suburbia, or on farmland somewhere where you can ask what kind of year is this supposed to be. It's generally it's in places that you can even imagine if we hadn't had those kind of time frame constraints. This could be in the early 2100s for the kind of primitive alien type retrofuturistic alien universe, or kind of Blade Runnerish, but a bit more grounded. I would say that the cyberpunk, yeah, elements aren't so pronounced, as especially nowadays cyberpunk media is all colorful, bombastic ads. It's focusing on reflections of the modern era's problems. But the kind of earlier cyberpunkish elements were a lot more constrained and laid back, in the sense of a lot more grounded, just focusing on the kind of collateral between how our human cultures are interfacing with work obsessed world. And yeah, having it focus on a different region like that does make it timeless. But honestly, I would have preferred if there was any kind of dates said, that it was a bit like half a century or a century in the future, a bit more. It doesn't create any problems too much because it's so isolated. I loved how isolated it was, but still, I love as future a setting can be in that sense. So it was
I
okay.
I like it being ambiguous with the date. You know, it's Greg said there about it not being so neon-y of a cyberpunk kind of thing. If I remember rightly, Neuromancer still had it placed in an Asian region. It was still neon, but yeah, it felt a little bit more analog in the technology kind of aspects of it at the time. It's been a while since I read Neuromancer. I'm sorry, folk, and I don't think I ever finished it. I think I struggled to get through that book. But I didn't see it so much as I didn't see the cyberpunk in it that much. Yes, we've got the I've already forgot what it was called, a techno pagan. Yeah, we have that phrase, but it felt more noir to me. It felt more tech noir than it did cyberpunk, in my opinion. And a lot of that was carried through by the Alex Maleev's inks and the color work that was done, because it was so heavy on shadows. It was so heavy on black. but it wasn't washing out details really. You know, it was still detailed artwork. There was a lot of contrasting to the color. You know, the environments, the background were very bright or brighter greens and blues, which then contrasted with like the red of the facehugger and the darkness of the predators and the aliens. You know, even the predators were very shadowy in their green armor, in their blackish kind of face stuff. So yeah, it felt more noir to me than it did cyberpunk. But in terms of the Earth setting, in terms of the timeline, it being so ambiguous is what makes it work because it felt sci-fi. You know, AVP. I will still always the film AVP. You know, I don't mind the setting so much in that. Yes, I think it would have been cooler had we set it on an alien planet under the pole somewhere on another planet, and there were colonial marines, and we had M41A pulse rifles, although G36C still rock. But even then, it still felt like a sci-fi film. You know, it was more of an adventure-y kind of sci-fi film. But then when you go to AVPR and it's this schlocky, sort of 80s, low budget, small town America kind of vibe to it, it doesn't feel so sci-fi-ish. Whereas this Eternal absolutely felt like science fiction. So that's why the Earth sort of setting doesn't bother me. And I think we must have talked about this when we were talking about Alien Earth, but you know, that whole thing of it being negating Ripley's sacrifice kind of thing. You know.
I've
Yeah,
never
whatever.
been a subscriber of that
Yeah.
idea. But it's something we saw recurring in the Predator series as well. I mean, Concrete Jungle again. More than half the game, I would say, takes place in that future, very cyberpunk setting, Neonopolis. And when Predator and EVP would eventually return with Dark Horse in the early 2010s, or I guess 2010 exactly, right?
2009 were when the Alien and the Predator ones
Yeah.
came out.
So Predator, what was that Predator? So Prey to the Heavens, right? That was also kind of into the future a bit in the 21st century, I believe.
Well, we were in the 21st century at that point,
Yeah.
Adam.
But like, you know, further than we were in the future
Yeah.
by like 10, 20 years or something like that.
But that also brings to another point that I can't remember who mentioned. It was Greg or Hunter, where it feels like Eternal feels more like a Predator story, rather than an Alien story. And I think that vibe also helps with the setting. You know, a Predator in a futuristic Earth city. Yeah, that feels absolutely bang on. And I think you mentioned earlier, Adam, as well. It was a lot smaller in conflict. It was a lot contained. You know, it was two aliens. There was only two aliens in this entire story, and one of them takes out a predator. And how many predators? There was only three predators as well, wasn't there? It was
Four,
a
four at the start. Four were at the start. Yeah,
One of them gets
one was tail slashed. The other one gets minced by a truck. We're
was
gonna talk
great
about that
Predator
later.
death, yeah.
And then we have two remaining there with one alien alive and that little hunt. So
and I liked that smaller contained nature of it. You know, it even I did like that the aliens were still kidnapping people. They were still establishing a hive. They were still hiving these people up, and like the whole thing of the predators going and kidnapping a bloke, trying to set up a trap for the aliens with this guy. It's like, come here, aliens. We've got a host for you. I know you like these hosts. You know, even though there was no hint of a queen, there was no hint of egg morphing or whatever, but I still love that they kept to that behavior because that's one of my critiques of Alien 3. You know, the runner should have been capturing people and setting up hosts for when the queen was born, or should have
yeah.
you know, restrained Ripley for a start, you know. Um So to see the aliens in this, that Ian took that approach to it of being like, yeah, they're still going to set up a hive. They'll get hosts ready. They'll deal with that later. I enjoyed that aspect of them, and I enjoyed that the predators weren't so simple in terms of going, I'm just going to wander around there. I'll set up some traps. Maybe I'll run into the aliens. Oh, I know. I'll just scream. I liked that was taking the piss out of Wolf there. I liked the predators actually demonstrated some little bit of knowledge of the creatures, and we're like, yeah, it's a host. Come on, I'll wait for you. I liked that. I thought it was good. I liked the conflict.
It's always something I've never been too much of a stickler on, like, oh, why isn't the alien taking them to the hive or whatever? Because in many stories, you see them arbitrarily kill some people and take some people back to the hive. And I've always thought of it like, oh, it's going to kill the ones it deems to be a threat, you know? And that was another thing I thought that the game recently, Rogue Incursion, handled pretty well. Like, you are infected in the hive and the aliens won't go after you, but if you try and mess with them, they will, and they'll kill you. So that is an element that I did like seeing here, that people were getting kind of snatched off the streets, and it was something I was kind of hoping to see in Alien Earth, given a kind of abandoned recent plot point we revealed on one of our recent podcasts, that there was a bit more in the city with that one. So it was definitely something I liked seeing here. But yeah, this does not feel like predators in an alien setting. This feels like aliens in maybe a more predator leaning setting, but still at the time a pretty unique new setting for predator. Um, and yeah, I feel like the artists captured both creatures pretty well here. And the predators, it was cool to see them hunt together. Like, I remember seeing the one grab the other from falling into the acid pool. Um, and yeah, when that one just gets hit by the truck climbing out of the manhole, and the others are like, "Oh shit! Oh well, don't do that, I guess."
To continue off of the about this being more of a predator story, it's mostly a predator story with aliens just kind of sprinkled there for the flavor and for the ending climax, though they're in there from the very early start, I think from issue 2. But I think this is kind of a perfect example of having both of these creatures, both of their just kind of story driving force be known throughout the 4 issues, yet you have relatively little screen time with them. You don't need to show them a lot, but the stories are still completely about them in the sense. Yes, it's more about the Predator, especially from Lee's perspective, but again, the Predators, these Predators that we track, they don't care about Lee or his shenanigans. They're here because, oh, somebody got our eggs and stole our shit. We got the signal. So they're here, they're hunting the aliens. And the whole story is then just predicated on these two creatures, their motives, and what are they doing? They're driving the plot elements, which, yeah, it's about these people and how they deal with the situation. But I love how this kind of shows and contrasts a lot of modern, not so much predator media, but especially alien media, where people are thinking, oh, maybe we don't need Alien in Alien at all. Maybe we don't even need to focus on the creature, or we don't need it driving the plot points. But here, even though you don't have a lot of screen time with the thing, even though there's a lot of world that's being explored, there's a lot of character motivations being developed and explored, you have these creatures driving the plot. And again, that's something with the atmosphere that's just brilliantly uh, depicted. Something that Aaron brought up with the art. I adore how the art uses blacks so much, so vividly, so the percentage of the page that's dripped in complete blackness, just dark, extreme shadows, that tech noir feeling is beautiful. I adore such a style. And yeah, so whenever I see the old comics that have that kind of sharp contrast levels, that's something that I think a lot of modern comic styles just it's a different style and genre. People don't want to use that anymore so much. Okay, but it's something I kind of long for. And even though there are a lot of like contrasty lighter elements, those lighter elements they are desaturated. They aren't so vibrant. The red blood, when you compare it to other everyday red buttons, features, etc., damn, those colors are very desaturated. They're very pastel. So those are some of the kind of art styles that for me works so well with those alt comics. And for me, the most beautiful kind panel there was, I think, the ending of issue 2 with that alien, the reveal of the aliens in the sewer. And later,
Yeah.
the aliens are a bit less detailed, etc. They're still good, but those first depictions of the adult aliens is incredible, absolutely incredible. Just pure blackness with the highlights there. That's how I want to see the aliens, not just on page, but also in games and on screen.
Well, that's a whole
Beautiful.
other discussion and argument, though, isn't it? Is the interpretations of the aliens. I would say the creatures and artwork in general. Let's be honest. Let's branch it out, whatever. But the Dark Horse era was willing to experiment with stylized interpretations of all the creatures. You know, throughout the library of Dark Horse. Sometimes it didn't work. You know, um I'm not a fan of Sam Keith's interpretation of the aliens in Andy's characters in Earth Hive / Female War. And I can't remember the artist's name, but Alien Hive. That would be Alien Harvest in the novel form. You know, I wasn't a fan of that interpretation, but you could say that these aliens and these predators are stylized, and I would say the same of the characters as well. It is a stylized form of artwork, and it's not just through the noirs and the shadows and the colors that's going off. It is in the way that Alex draws everything in this series, and it's one of those times where I think it really fucking works well. Yes, they might not be detailed, but it doesn't detract from the story going off. It doesn't detract from the artwork overall. It's a style that I think really suited Alien and Predator. And I always have to clarify this and give Sam Keith his credit where it's due. Yes, I didn't like Female War, Earth Hive, whatever, but in Human Condition, his style matches the narrative of that story so well. So again, it's picking an artist whose interpretation, whose style suits the story and the vibe that's going to be told. And in this particular case, Ian Edginton and Alex Maleev, yeah, match made in heaven.
And it's still a realistic style. I mean, the style is honestly more with the color side of things than it is with the line art. I think the line art is very strong, still leans more into realism, but I really appreciate the high contrast and like you were saying, Greg, just the deep blacks. It really works with the story. And when we're not in that setting, yeah, things look a bit flatcher and maybe a little desaturated. Even some of the establishing shots, like when we see the tower in the cityscape, or even when we see the jetliner landing in Tokyo from McBride's flight, I think a lot of those establishing shots really help with the tone and the feel.
It's moody.
Yeah, it was very moody. That's a good word for
Exactly.
it. And I do love just the internal monologues we get from McBride. It's one of the best parts of the story, especially when she's like, "You ever have one of those days?" And she goes
Which
into exactly what she's experiencing now and just how crazy it is to her.
which adds to that noir tone of the entire story. I loved all the monologues, or the internal monologuing, because yeah, it's I don't want to say it's cheating in a comic, but you know, comics, most of the storytelling is visual. Of course it is. It's a fucking comic. So it's harder for them to get a lot of character in, other than using those text box kind of things. And again, I don't want to say it's cheating, but it allows you to know more about the character. It lets you get to know Rebecca more. It lets us get to know Gideon more in the opening, and it's just then suits this noir vibe that runs throughout the entire series. It just worked so well, and I loved all that. And she was, I love that Ian made her British because Ian's a British bloke, and it kind of the whole thing of write what you know, and I liked the character that it gave her. She did not feel like a stereotypical Brit, but she had those sort of little quirks and moments and comments where I was like, okay, she does not feel like a generic American kind of thing. She does not feel like a generic stereotypical British kind of thing. It gives the character a little bit more depth to it. And it was Ian, writing the culture that he knew with some nuance and flavor to it, not like that fucking awful Colony War book.
Yeah, I thought she was a really solid character. And one of the things I very much appreciate about those earlier Dark Horse comics, especially the AVP ones, I mean, this goes back to the original AVP comic, was characters not only having internal monologues, but having a conversation. And then we get a switch to something going on with the monsters, the alien or predator, and it feeling like directly connected to that unintentionally, but it just so works. And this comic did that a few times as well.
Exactly. That was exactly what I was gonna say as well. That is something I found throughout the comics that I really, really love. That's not only present in this one, but was in previous series. Whenever there's a narration or internal monologues, but you see those themes being kind of stipulated against the images of this kind of eternal ancient battle between the predators and aliens. It just gives it a level of grandeur a bit more. It feels a bit more epic in the theatrical kind of sense than just, oh, dumb smashing action figures together. So it is something that kind of brings a level of seriousness to such conflict when you use those kind of character moments, thoughts, monologues, narration of ideas to be uh, superimposed on top of that conflict. So that is something I
It
always appreciate to see.
it adds depth to it. So it is exactly like you say, Greg. It is not just mashing two figures together. There's some depth and thematic relevance going off.
And what you said makes me wonder the comic's title, if that was meant to refer to that ongoing battle of the alien or predators, or what Gideon Lee was after eternal life.
I do think that was definitely more Gideon Lee, though, especially given what he does with Rebecca and the idea of the biography. It's him finding another way to be relevant throughout the years.
It was funny though, once he's killed, he's very like, oh shit, I'm getting old, I'm clumsy. Like, I'm
Yeah,
like,
that was quick. The
yeah,
ending.
with how hard you were trying to live forever, you're just like, oh shit, I messed up. All right, kill me. I,
Although I did
That
really
felt rushed.
I did really like his little conflict with the predators. Throughout the entire series, he demonstrates his knowledge of the predators. He's setting multiple traps over the years to lure predators down so he can get them and he can kill them and get the hearts and all that kind of stuff. And there's one particular moment. I mean, there's multiple moments towards the end of the series, that last issue where I don't think it's set up very well. I don't remember it being mentioned at all, but the idea that the stealth suits were also blocking their heat and that he didn't know that the predators could see in multiple visual spectrums. I don't think that was referenced at all in any of the other issues, so that felt a little out of left field. And also, just while we're on that topic, I do miss the modern media forgetting that predators can see in multiple visual spectrum.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
That's needed to come back.
it does need to
A
come
lot of
back.
Predator to love in the sense of those details that were introduced. they need to be brought back. We need that different gear in the sense, okay, some of the films are using it, but those details, it can be so easy to fool the creature. Okay, once or twice here and there, okay, but we've had decades and decades of the creatures being able to see in different ways. So,
Did Predators do that,
Yes,
or did
because he
it?
went to the heartbeat mode.
Oh, okay. So that was a different
and
vision mode. He didn't just see
and
that
tracking
in the
and
right.
tracking footsteps with some kind of visual detection algorithm thing. Who knows? But yeah, they absolutely had some added ones, which was brilliant to see in Predators.
And I think as we edge closer towards AVP returning, I would like to see that come back in the future comics, especially with the aliens. I would love to see
Hmm.
the alien vision come back in comic form and to see
Yeah.
that continue.
I mean, that was in both AVP movies, and it was a very prominent feature in the games as well. So I have to expect they would bring that back.
We can hope.
It does feel like Dan's forgot about that though, unfortunately, because there's like moments in Killer of Killers, absolutely where that should have happened. Even Ferrell probably should have done it, but I can't even think of in the comics or the novels recently where they've really gone into alternate visual spectrums. So
Nope.
it was one of those moments in Eternal where it was influenced by the modern day, where I was like, yeah, I miss this. But what was my point? Oh yeah, it was about him knowing about the predators and the whole setup of him being like, "Come on, fight me like a predator," and he goes, "Yeah, well, I'm not honourable," so pops out his little shoulder-mounted shoulder cannon and
It's
takes a
hidden
shot at me.
shoulder cannon,
I
extra
was like,
shoulder cannon.
I
That
love
was
that.
brilliant. That was brilliant. I forgot that moment rereading it. I forgot how the resolve of that last fight, because I reread it a long time ago between the rereads. So seeing this, I was like, oh god, that's brilliant. Oh, that's because that's how you would expect somebody who has trapped and killed multiple predators, who has survived this long and has so much experience with them. Yes, you're gonna the only way you're gonna defeat them is by tricking them, by outsmarting them in those kind of cheeky ways, baiting them out, which basically happens in all the films. But in all the films, they are first time learning about the predator and their abilities, and so they always kind of only somewhat improvise until the end. But here, he had that plan from the start, how to lure him out, and that was fantastic. Too bad the way his demise is it was it kind of felt flat for me. It kind of like I like that the predator then tricked him and feigning that they were out and just punching him through. That's all okay, but then kind of his resolve. Oh, damn, I screwed up. Especially since the writing was so well done, I expected some better last words, something more grand and interesting. So those are kind of the few faults there where things kind of fall flat in the execution of the culmination that's
It
been all set up.
it was a 4-issue run though, and I think a lot of Dark Horse's runs were 4 issues, and a lot of them struggled at that conclusion moment, to wrap it up in an adequate way. In some ways, I actually
I
quite
agree.
like it being anticlimactic, though, because I've always been a big fan of Alien being unfair, with the franchise being harsh on the people that live in it. And in that way, where Gideon was like, oh, I fucked up, and just sort of accepting it, especially since he already had his fallback plan in place with Becca as well, not that maybe she did write it or not, but as far as he was concerned, there was still this potential for another form of immortality to still exist, even if he was dying.
And to add on to that, I think, as we've said many times here, predators are cheaters, right? And Gideon has learned that over the years that if you're going to beat a cheater, you got to be a cheater, right? And I, even though that moment is a little bit anticlimactic, there are moments in other variations of AVP where a predator kind of succumbs to the demise when the aliens got the upper hand. And for me, that moment where it kind of accepts his death was almost a copycat of a predator taking this. You got me, all right, finish it. this is your chance to claim your kill. So in that essence, I do like his demise, but I can totally understand your viewpoint on being anticlimactic.
Can I also just call out again from a modern point of view, but how much I missed seeing that classic P1 shuttle? It was always an aspect of this series that I loved. I just love seeing that design show up in any media, and coming back to it now after 15 years of various other interpretations, I'm like, oh, I miss this look.
You have that one, don't you? The one Nekka put out, right?
Yeah, the Cine Machines one. I have that one. I skipped on the Lost Tribe, but I certainly brought the Jungle Hunters shuttle.
Yeah, you get to see it in a lot of detail here too, because like it's kind of carved out from the crash, and you can see the multiple floors that the scientists are standing on. So that was a cool element as well. I will say with the ending, it does set it up for a sequel. And given that we've seen Marvel willing to take the Dark Horse characters like they have in the recent Predator runs with Schaefer, I would love to see McBride make you know a comeback and see what her next pursuits were, because it does make it clear at the end of the comic that she wants to get to the bottom of things that are happening with aliens and predators here. So
Well, one other thing that I also kind of noticed was that yeah, I was surprised at how many elements the game Predator Concrete Jungle basically lifted from this comic, and just how similar they were. Even with the alien kind of conflict coming at the end, which then shouldn't have been to anybody's surprise, really. If we should have had AVP Eternal in our mind, like, oh, of course, then aliens would show up at the end of Predator Concrete Jungle. But getting back to the character of the comic and the game that used the same themes. One thing that I found very interesting that I certainly liked is that as Aaron kind of said, it's more of a noir feeling, and how that really works for a Predator setting as well. Yes, it has some elements, some crossover elements that were kind of led in through Predator 2, but Predator 2 was more pulpy and with the kind of exaggerated comic book style, where here it's more of the serious, dark, noir kind of atmosphere going on. And I think that some of those kind of atmosphere aspects are taken from the alien side of the universe without the creature itself, and kind of put in like world building and then have a predator for it. And so even though this comic is more predator, it isn't actually very predator movie. It's the atmosphere is completely different to the first Predator film. It doesn't have that over the top action bravado. It's a completely different type of serious vibe that's actually more similar to the Predators film later on. So I found that's kind of atmosphere that I really like for the Predator. That noir, dark style works very good. And when you see the art of the final panels of the Predator without the mask, all the darkness, like the greatest horror character in the world standing over the people, like
I've
that can really work.
I've said for a long time though, and I brought it up when we were talking about Badlands. Predator is flexible as a franchise, far more so than Alien is. And at this point, as we're coming towards the end of Dark Horse's first golden age of Alien and Predator, Dark Horse has been demonstrating throughout the years that flexibility, not just in terms of time setting, but in terms of tone and franchise and what it was doing. Yes, we've seen it in Predator and Predator 2. There is a big difference in tone between those two films. Predator 2 is so much more corny, cheesy, camp in its approach, in terms of tone, as well as the story it's trying to do. It is trying to be this detective story. It doesn't do it very well because the audience is always ahead of the characters, but the comics had been doing it for years before this. So I don't think that element's too out there in my opinion, because we'd already been seeing it for ages. But it's one of those cornerstones of the series where it's like, this is an example of Predator showing that strength of its flexibility.
Well, to add on to that, as we're talking about the end of the Dark Horse era, and with Ian being at the forefront of the end of that era, I think what's interesting to me too was 5 years prior we have Aliens Rogue, which in some ways has a lot of similarities here, and one of which was the theme of we don't just conquer our fears, we market them, right? That's a huge pinpoint of Rogue, and I think that's a really congruent theme that runs without that 5 years from that comic to this. It really encapsulates what both Aliens and now Predator can be.
And you mentioned it at the start, but we haven't really talked about it here. But the idea of him being so Elon Elon-esque. And this has been very relevant in terms of Boy Cavalier and Alien Earth and stuff like that. And I don't feel like it would have been too relevant at the time, or maybe that's just because I was a kid, and I was not overly aware of the wider politics of the world at this point. And I'm not interested in political history. It bores me. I don't like people's political opinions.
They do mention Bill Gates in the comics. They're like, oh, he makes Bill Gates look like Mother
That was
Teresa.
funny.
So it's kind of interesting to see it through that lens, or think about it now that you've brought it up, because I didn't really cotton on to that in this. It was perhaps handled a little more subtly than Boy Cavalier is. But it's an interesting thought.
I would I would challenge that kind of opinion in the sense of I didn't really see too much of a parallel to modern day tech millionaires and billionaires, etc. Um, I I would say yes, Boy Cavalier in Earth is a hybridization of many modern day characters, rich swindlers and rich entrepreneurs that have gone this way or the other. Not just Musk, of course, but Sam Bankman-Fried, etc. The the general kind of school of, oh, you can be ridiculous and people take you even more seriously for it. I think that since it was still in the 90s, the character being a little bit more subtle throughout most of his run, I think it's more of a reflection of what kind of rich people used to be more back then. They used to be more subtle, didn't try to stand out more. They were trying to be, quiet business type, not to be too much in the limelight. It wasn't like inventor centric, since Boy Cavalier is an inventor in that sense. This guy is just a rich mogul, buys things up. He's not somebody who creates things or markets that he's the face of things that
Well,
much.
maybe not the face of, because the comic makes a point of him being quite private, in terms of protecting
Exactly.
his secrets.
And
But he is still, he is still known about. He is still one of the most
yeah,
richest people on the earth. We see him developing a disposable computer, whether that was to be interpreted as the piece of paper that he folded up and he scrunched up and threw in the bin or whatever. He still made his millions reverse engineering the Predator technology for some form of commercial use. I was kind of gutted we didn't get to learn about the name of his company. We see the symbol, it's like this dragon-esque kind of
Yeah.
Z. But it's a shame because, like Adam mentions, the end of the comic is so set up for a sequel, but there's like little details there that kind of make it hard for the RPG perhaps to spin off from and set things up, because that could have been really interesting. The comic ends with the Japanese government seizing all his assets. So at this point in an undeterminable amount of time in the future, the Japanese government have a crashed Predator ship and some alien eggs and who knows what else.
Japanese
That's
version of the OWLF, I guess.
That's one of the other reasons. I mean, that ending, that is a completely grounded thing. Your company screws up, goes into dissolving mode, etc. And if the government can, yeah, they will take they will take your stuff if they see no more use for you. So again, I think that's something that very, very contrasts to Earth with no governments and you companies being the replacement of governments, etc. So I think in that sense, it's still very, very kind of steeped in the grounded, kind of a more subtle 90s feel, as the comic kind of contrasts with how media portrays these questions and situations completely differently nowadays, in my opinion. How did you all feel about uh, well, the other half of the title of this comic, the Alien versus Predator ring? Uh, that relatively short but intense conflict. How do you think were the characters balanced? What are your opinions about that?
I mean, I do think it didn't lean into the fight as much. I mean, yeah, we had that there. Um, but it was kind of in the shadows. And then when you have the predators fight the human team, it just kind of hand waves it away. We see all these explosions and we hear about this cover story, and then the major's like, "Oh, I lost these men," but we didn't really see much of that, you know. And in the end, it still feels like it's mostly the predators versus this human group. And I believe we have the xenomorph show up at the end, and then McBride kills it, which I thought was interesting because the predator sees her kill the alien, and then she passes out and she's injured. And she's like, someone or something brought me to the surface where I could be taken to the hospital. So that, I guess, implies that the predators did not just leave her there to die. That, similar to the first AVP movie, they were like, "Oh, okay, you killed an alien. I'm impressed. I'll help you out." You know, so
I it's a fair point that the AVP action does not constitute a significant portion of the series, but it's not a detriment to it. You know, as long as the rest of it's good and the AVP action is impactful in some way, then I do not need these stories to be anything to be just mashing the action figures together. You know, a lot of the rest of the series has depth and style as well as substance. So, Greg, you said earlier about, you know, issue 2 ending with that fantastic cliffhanger, that big, you know, one page panel of the alien in the sewer. You know, that is a bombshell moment to end an issue on. And it's a striking visual, and the rest of the then Alien versus Predator action is striking. You know, again, it works with Malev's style. And yes, we get like maybe a quarter, a third of issue 3, I think is, um, you know, AVP action. But it's the small numbers make it balanced and impactful. That was something I always said about future films and why AVPR is so unimpactful in terms of some of the combat. You know, they need to keep the numbers low of both creatures because then each conflict, each encounter has an impact, whether that's a death of one of the low numbers already, whether it's an injury of one of the characters. Um, and I feel that here in this series, you know, yes, it's only a couple of pages or however many pages, but a predator dies to one of the aliens. An alien dies to the predators. You know, it isn't just a whitewash either way, as to the victors and the success, and it showed striking sort of like the predators showing up in the alien hive as well, and you're seeing all the hived victims. It was an impressive visual. So it made use of the time that these two characters were fighting, these two creatures were fighting, and I didn't dislike the focus on the other stuff. I don't feel like we got more predators fighting humans. I think one of you mentioned that earlier, and I don't strictly agree with you there, because it was primarily just like the back end of issue 2 where that was a thing. Otherwise it's conflict everywhere. Issue 1 was conflict between humans. There was a little bit of issue 2 that was conflict between the predators and the predators and the humans. We then had conflict between the predators and the aliens in issue 3. And then we end it in an entirely 3-way battle at the end of issue 4 just to round out the entire run. So I think it was, even if it was short, it was still balanced and it was still impactful and memorable. That's important. The remembering those moments, those visuals, those panels, those specific elements of those battles, like Adam says, the whole thing of the Predator seeing McBride take out one of the aliens and showing her that classic bit of Predator respect, not honor. And the moments we talked about earlier with Gideon surprising one of the Predators. And I think there was a panel of an alien tailing a Predator as well. I always love to see the aliens' tails in use. There was memorable moments just throughout this entire run that just go alongside this thematic story, this character seeking immortality through multiple means, and Becca herself seeking some form of immortality or notoriety. Is just, it's relevant, and it's got depth and it's got substance to it, and it's got fucking style to it. Alex Maleev is fantastic, and it's a shame we didn't get to see him do more.
And it's like you said, Greg, even though we might not have the most alien and predator conflict in this compared to some of the other comics, their presence is always felt. And that's the case for the original 1979 Alien film. We're really not getting too much screen time on it, but its presence is always felt. Granted, as fans, we do love seeing those stories where we have big battles. I loved reading the AvP Rage War books, but not every story needs to be that. And for something that's more noir focused, more character focused, and more theme focused, and more style focused, like you said, Aaron, I feel like this really works. Granted, if we were to ever see a follow up, yeah, maybe crank up the action a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. And to all this, I say, is the action deserving, right? This formula has been done and done again. Alien, Jaws, Godzilla, monsters that have minimal screen time, but when the depth, like you said, Aaron, the style, the story, the human characters, Lee, keep us intrigued, then that mashup becomes well deserved. And I think that the equilibrium of the fight is certainly debatable, but personally, I think it's well done. And as we spoke about earlier, I mean, it's sometimes comically done well with the truck. So I think that when you have a nice balance of character, depth, story, and then having that actual conflict when it's done in an equal way, then I have no problem with it for as minimal as it is.
And granted, I don't think this would be right for the big return of AVP to the big screen, but maybe after that, I think this could be a really cool film adaptation. If they ever were to directly adapt a comic, I think this would be a fitting choice.
So that's something I forgot to mention early on as well, but it was something we told Ian about, and he didn't know when we spoke to him a few years back. But in the early days of AVP actually being a real thing, being a movie that was going to be made, it wasn't going to be stuck in development hell anymore. The early reports were of it being something that sounded very much like an adaptation of this comic of of AVP Eternal. And I think it was two writers called, I forget their full names, but Demonico and Fox, with the surnames, who had apparently written this treatment that was very much like this an adaptation of AvP Eternal. I've tried to track them down over the years to ask them about it, but I've never been able to make contact, because that would have been a very interesting first AvP film. It could have been better, absolutely, than the AvP we got, because it would have felt more sci-fi. It would have felt more visually interesting, potentially. But yeah, I would love to hear more from DeMonico and Fox about this treatment that they had written. And maybe this will renew me to go try and touch bases with them somehow again. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was mentioned on here.
That would have been an interesting alternate kind of a past to live in, to see if that vision would have been in the full version, kind of let to live with the sci-fi elements if the budget would have allowed. But um, regarding the treatment of the core kind of conflict between these two epic monsters, I, as many people already here know, I am somebody who first and foremost comes for the creatures. I'm a fan of the alien and the predator. I adore good human stories. I adore well-written characters and having an actual believable kind of dilemma that is developed through their actions. I completely agree with Hunter there that you cannot have just dumb action, mashing those action figures together or whatever, if there is not a personal kind of conflict brewing in the sense of what is setting up this dynamic. When we have uh, enigmatic characters such as the alien and predator, you can't really do it through their lens. You have to do it through the human characters. But once that is set up well, then what do we do when we have that conflict? One of the reasons I like this so much is what I've been saying here a few times. Uh, you do not need to show a lot of the character. It just needs to drive the plot forward. It doesn't have to be about showing on every page a predator and an alien. As long as you can feel their presence, as long as you can say that they are driving the story, I feel the characters are respected. And if you have just a few of those beautiful panels, something that you will remember from this comic, ooh, look how that alien made me feel. Look how that predator made me feel and generally get that atmosphere, then it helps sell the atmosphere of it all. I agree with Aaron that having less characters is much better for with the balance, less aliens and less predators. It's easier to write that because if you have a lot of them, you have to have a reason in the narrative. Why did this thing get so big? How did it get so big without being wide in the open and known about, etc. So, and then justifying the action, how would it look, especially on a medium like comic books? It can be tricky. So, having something smaller, more intimate, I always appreciate. I adore sewer levels in games. I like the sewer scenes in Alien vs Predator Requiem. I'm with you there, Adam. So whenever you put aliens and predator in sewers, that is another bonus for me. I really, really like that. And having only 2 aliens and only 4 predators and having them relatively at level killing off each other, I think it was a really balanced way to do it. You didn't have too many panels, you didn't have too many extraordinary things happening, but in one scene, the predator helps out, gets the upper hand. In another scene, the alien does. They're using their abilities well. And it was simple but impactful because of the strong visual elements and because I felt like they knew how to use less the old adage of the rule, less is more. So I think they struck a beautiful balance there, and I think it should be kind of a not so much like even a trope or template, but a good example of uh, letting those antagonists drive the stories without showing them too much. It imitates the films perfectly in that sense. And when they are there, just make sure to respect them as I felt they were, which is one of the reasons why I find this comic in such high regard.
Does anybody have any other elements of Eternal that they want to bring up? I'm just checking my notes now, actually. Nope, I'm all good. We've talked about all the things I wanted to talk about.
Just a really solid comic that if you're, diving into the world of AvP, I definitely recommend. Unfortunately, again, it's out of print, so hopefully those who have not checked it out already will have means to do so in the next couple of years, hopefully.
Yep, I still love this one. I revisit it regularly. If, if you somehow listening to this and you haven't, it is one I wholly recommend seeking out. And like Adam says, hopefully Marvel will bring out the omnibuses at some point soon. Okay, shall we unexpectedly do a Predator Badlands quiz that I forgot to do when we discussed Predator Badlands?
Oh snap!
Oh no.
Let's do it.
Unfortunately, I did try and see if Jack could join us today to do this, but he's busy pretty much all of December. But you've got 3 of the 4 other guests of that episode. Greg, take us away if you've still got the questions. I do if you don't.
I do. I've found them. So it's a fun. It's a toughie. It's a tough one, but okay. Are we ready?
Always.
Okay, let's commence. Fellow Yautja, are you ready for the hunt of your lives? To prove yourselves worthy of your cloaks, you better check your gear because you don't want to lose it. But before the clan allows you to hunt, you must prove you know the ways of the Yautja. First question. So something every Yautja dreams to hunt one day, and live to tell the tale is the great acid-blooded serpent. What is the Yautja phrase for such a creature in Steve Perry's Aliens vs. Predator Prey, the comic novelization? Is it A? Oh, yeah, since the pronunciations are going to be fucking mental. Is it A, Pio de Amedha? Sorry for the pronunciations. B, Pauk de? C, Kainde Amedha? Or D, Zabin? So these are
Done.
all pre-Yautja words that kind of existed in the novelization world. Okay.
Easy.
Easy.
Although there is a different word for it now, as you'll find out in our
Exactly.
upcoming.
Well,
Yeah,
that should be out by now.
by the time you're all listening to this. Okay,
Yes.
the second question. Our kind apparently used to be slaves to the Amengi. Do you young hunters remember the name of our breaker of chains? Is it A, Ashori? B, Kyle? C, Yainde? Or D, the Taudi? Oh my god.
Isn't Predator a wonderful language?
It is.
Greg, could
So
you repeat those?
Yes. Okay, A is Hashori. B is Kyle. Like with double A. Not really Kyle, but it's probably Kyle. C is Yainde. D is Datodi. I think I did that well. The last one.
You did it well enough that I can remember who every single one of those is.
Oh damn, you nerd. Okay.
Challenge me when we do the questions so I can prove that.
For the big quiz, there are
No,
some,
I mean when we're going through at the end and you're revealing the answers, challenge me to actually do that.
Yes. Yeah. Number 3. We might finally see how the Yautja birds and the bees get together and uncover once and for all what a female hunter actually looks like on screen. So do you, fellow decks of the Yautjas, know your female variants from over the years? One of them was the Hish with hermaphroditic involuntary phases with almost identical males and females. But one little detail from those underloved novels, how many spawnlings did they have at the time?
Oh God.
Was
Okay.
it? Now, if you know this, then you are the biggest nerd of us all.
I've read that book 3 times in my life,
Oh
and
damn!
that
Oh damn!
was
That's
more
more.
than enough.
That's 3 times more than some of us. Okay, so is the answer A 3, B 4, C 5, or D 6? So how many spawnlings, which is babies? 3, 4, 5,
No
or
idea.
6?
No idea for this
Hey,
one. It's
guess
gonna be a
so.
guess.
You have 25% chance of guessing.
I
I'm
thought this was
look-
going to be a Badlands quiz.
Yeah, me
Well,
too.
well, yes. This is regarding elements seen in Badlands compared to their other compared to
Yeah.
inspirations from the novels. The
I like-
real film questions will be in the big quiz.
I
if
liked
it
this
goes well,
one when I
okay.
saw when you sent me the questions to actually do on the episode, and I was gutted I forgot to do it. But I was like, you know what, Greg, I like these. These have gone on nicely from elements of Badlands. But this fucking hell, if I know this.
It's I mean
Yeah.
these things are excuses for us to get reminded of the details, but also for the other fans to learn interesting trivia from outside the expanded universe, you know. Okay, so the first question, what did y'all put down? What is the name for the great acid-blooded serpent?
C. Conde Medha.
See.
Okay,
Exactly. Yeah.
exactly. You all know the answer is C. Kainde Amedha, or hard meat, as it's called. Piode Amedha was soft meat, commonly referred to for humans. Paude is fucker, and Zabin is insect. So all kind of have alien associations, I can imagine. Okay, you all get a point for that. Number 2. What is the name of the breaker of chains that freed you
Kyle.
from the
Kyle.
Kyle?
Kyle.
Okay. Did
Adam,
everybody
did you
put
get that one?
No, I mean, I know it's the Alpha Predator, but I haven't
Yes.
read the back of the NECA card in recent memory, so I don't
know
know his
what?
fucking name. If you would have had the Alpha Predator, I would have got it.
I'm
That would be
offended.
too easy. That would be
I'm
too easy.
I'm offended because I did a law piece on that, Adam, some years ago, and that you haven't
Some
regularly
years ago, and
revisited.
I'm gonna have this specific Predator's name of a concept I don't even fucking like in my head.
All I'm hearing right now are excuses.
What did you put down? Which one did you thought sounded most?
I did C, and it was purely a guess.
The C was Yeyinde,
Yes, it was.
which is, if I remember rightly, Deshande's real name.
I think it's someone from the Steve Perry ones.
Oh no, or is it the
Other
kid,
one.
the annoying kid?
Oh yes,
No,
I
no,
think
it
it's
isn't.
annoying. No,
No, it's not. It is Broken Tusk. I've just googled
It is
it.
okay. Okay, it's
Yeah,
broken
it's
stuff. But
Deshande.
Hashori is from
War?
the Rage
Rage
War, yes,
War.
and I forgot where is the Toidi.
It's Machiko.
Oh fuck, that's where I
That's
took
her
it from.
predator
Cleft
name.
knife, right? Or little knife?
Yeah,
or
a
something?
small knife, I
yeah.
think.
Oh, damn it, Aaron.
I told you I knew them all. I told them I.
yeah. But now you
That's
will
why he
all
liked the
remember.
questions.
Yeah.
He knew he would win.
I do not have a clue about this last one. I was like, Greg, you fucking evil bastard.
But you will all for now remember that the great breaker of chains was nerdy pale Kyle. It was Kyle.
Kyle.
Exactly.
Yeah, Alpha
Kyle.
Okay, so how many of little spawnlings do you guess or know that they have at a time?
You got me on this one, man.
I put 3 first, but then I went for 5.
Okay.
I put 5 as
the
well.
rest?
I put
Okay.
5 as well.
They hunt in threes and they birth in threes, I guess.
I like that logic. So it was a 355, and unfortunately, you are all incorrect. The correct answer is D. 6.
6.
Oh, okay.
They have 6 at a time. They are
Double
they are
that, Adam.
very-
I guess that's why they have the toys that can kill him.
3 live,
What?
3 die.
keep down the population rate.
They're terrible parents. They're like, I don't want to deal with these. Like, we gotta cull out the annoying ones.
Half the brood will survive. Don't worry about it.
That's why they hunt in threes.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe they all fight in pairs to the death, and that's why you have 3 that remain, and they hunt like 3 siblings. Oh,
Lore's getting
that could
deep,
be-
folks.
Oh yeah. We're making shit up on the fly here. But yeah,
Bye.
the correct answer is 6. It was in one of the 2 beautiful novels.
Thank you for that, Greg. I did enjoy this one, and I do enjoy the quizzes. And by the time you're listening to this, we should have done our end live stream of the year. But this will all be out by the time that you're listening to this. So go back to the YouTube page, have a look at Adam's live stream of Raid, and come join us as Greg challenges our knowledge of this year's Alien and Predator entries and stories and everything.
If I beat you,
Yeah.
Aaron, you can't call me a fake fan.
Look, if you read a book without me prompting you, you know.
Oh, it's I can't wait to see how you two do on the quiz and whoever else we get. But it's gonna be a wide charade of colorful multi levels of hardness questions and trivia. But yes, it's gonna be fun. So anybody watching this who hasn't seen the quiz, go back, watch it. I'm sure it's gonna be hectic, fun, and participate along with everybody, even post here. So
If
glad
Adam
to see
beats Aaron, that'll be the perfect holiday gift. That will just
at the start of the videos, hedge your bets. Who of the contestants is going to do better?
In all fairness to Adam, he remembers our scoops a lot better than I do. when it comes to our intel, he's the one that remembers far more details than I ever do. So I will
Adam
absolutely
has
respect Adam's memory.
Yes, Adam has relevant kind of present wide memory. You, Aaron, have a weird trivia memory, though with most things you have no memory of this memory. So I think
This
it
is
will
true.
balance out.
Gotta throw some of our scoop questions in there then for me.
That I don't think that's fair.
Well, says the guy that got all the questions from today early, but
No, I didn't look at the answers.
is that
Anyway,
and you wonder why, Aaron, you were part of the gunslinger club that Alex said?
the lone gunman.
The
is,
lone gunman, and you wonder why you were part of the lone
or gun
gunman.
people.
Gun
I
people.
think look, I'm available for consultation on any official Alien and Predator releases. And before we sign off, just for our listeners, I've been rocking an Alien Christmas jumper throughout this episode. Video people can obviously see this quite easily, but for the audio people, it's a nice green alien with his tongue extended out with twinkly stars in the background.
Tell me where you got it.
Looks epic.
Somewhere cheap from China. I sent Adam the link. It's called like Geeks Outfit or something.
Geeksoutfit.com apparently. So if you want to pick yourself up one of those, there you go.
But yes, thank you everybody for joining us throughout this year. It's certainly been an exciting or busy year. I don't know if I can say exciting because it depends on how much you like, how much you enjoyed Alien Earth, how much you were on board for the Predator things. Personally, loved Badlands. A little difficult for killers for me. Disappointed by Alien Earth, but it's been plenty of stuff this year. We've had a bunch of Marvel comics, again of all varying qualities. At least we've had Perfect Organisms and Cult. Titan's been on it again. We have our Perfect Organisms episode scheduled for the new year, so we'll be discussing that in the new year. We'll sort out a episode for Cult soon as well. We also need to get some episodes booked in for the various other comics. We have been a little behind on getting the comics reviewed in a timely fashion. So I think we've got Black, White, and Blood to do. We've got versus Spider-Man, and Kills the Universe hasn't finished yet, actually. So we're only 2 behind, I think, really,
Well,
thinking about it.
Captain America just started too, I think.
Yeah, but that's future AvP Galaxy's problem. That's not current AvP Galaxy's problem.
But it has
Um,
been quite a year. So thank you for joining us for it. It's been busy. We've traveled. So we have some new members of the team, Mr. Hunter here, as well as Mr. Calum, who have joined us. Some old members of the team that have been appearing a bit more often as well, like Mr. Jack. So it's been a really interesting time for us. But we've never been as busy as we have this year. We 2 Predator movies, an Alien TV series. We spent a lot of time on that Alien TV series. We probably would have more if we could have lined up some interviews for you. And we have some interviews coming for Predator Badlands. One's about to drop. Another one we are recording soon.
will have dropped when you listen
Yeah.
when you hear this episode.
Next year, very excited for. We're gonna see production begin, I believe, on season 2. At least that's the rumor. On the sequel to Romulus, I believe, and we'll see what other project that Dan has maybe start to surface.
We'll have to see if Romulus 2 gets a director over the year. But we've got stuff coming out that we know is at least in the works. Whether we get a release or an announcement or anything happens in 2026, at the very least, we've got some comics that we know about. Like Adam said, Captain America versus Alien. We've got a new Predator solo run. Predator's dropping the Marvel crossovers, thankfully, for a little bit. I forget the name of the series, but something's coming out. And we'll be finishing Predator Kills the Marvel Universe. I forgot the name.
And we've just had 2 Alien books drop, so Titan's still at it.
But that's the last of those, though, that we know about, at least.
Yeah.
So there's nothing else announced there.
But we're going to start off the new year reviewing those books. So looking forward to that. And hopefully we'll at least have one video game to cover, because those are some of my favorite things to get hyped for, honestly.
Indeed. Well, there's 3, potentially 4 now. We know Isolation 2 is coming out. We know Rogue Incursion Part 2 is coming out. We know Fireteam Elite 2 is being developed. Whether we actually get an announcement or a release next year, who fucking knows? And there's this rumored Project Marathon that's apparently started up on production again. So we'll see what 2026 brings us, but we'll be here for the ride. We'll be here to cover it. There's plenty of other topics that I would like to get us to talk about along the way as well. Got some good stuff in the pipeline, and hopefully there should be a bunch of Predator Badlands interviews coming early on in the year as well, and being recorded early on in the year. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to yet another year of geeky nerdom.
Indeed.
It was a good year for the community in general, with all of the releases. I do agree there. It has been quite a busy year. It started last year and it ramped up really this one. We don't know how much we will be seeing of actual content drops next year, but we have still a lot of potential future projects in the work that we know are being worked on for both franchises. But from the community side, yes, it was a nice time seeing all of these shows, films, new comics, novels, every games drop, and have new people come in, have people who have been a bit more distant with the franchise for a few years kind of come back. So I am, especially at the end of the year, I'm happy at how the community has been growing and interacting. So it was nice that this year it was kind of more wins, maybe I should say, or generally more bigger installments for the Predator franchise, which has relatively kind of been a bit more low key, a bit under appreciated and loved compared to Alien's more wider appeal. So it's good to see them have a bit of a spotlight there, and the future I think is bright enough. The community is at a good place, and I hope that things continue on a nice path.
Yeah, I would like to say that, we got a lot this year in terms of AVP, and whether you liked it or not, we got plenty of it. I would just like to say thank you guys for bringing me on the team this year. It's been wonderful getting to know more people in the community on Discord and, of course, the forums, and making content for you guys. But I think we have a lot on the horizon for AVP next year, and I think we're all excited to cover that and dive deep into whatever next year brings us. So I'm looking forward to it, and I can't wait to hear what we have down the pipeline.
Indeed. And thank you to all our listeners and our community members, whether you're on the boards, whether you're on the socials, whether you're on Discord. We do it for you all and with you all. So thank you, and looking forward to another year.
And of
This
course, to
is-
our Patreon supporters that helped us do the coverage we were able to do this year. Your
Indeed.
support, your extra support is very much appreciated.
Without you guys and girls, we couldn't have sent Adam to as many events as we did, and Hunter as well. It's helped us actually get that level of in-depth coverage from fans for fans. So it's very much appreciated. We do have also a genetic memory episode scheduled by the end of the year. Actually, we've got it booked in, and I don't want to say I want a quieter year so we can focus more on doing those episodes, but we do try and fit them in. We just keep having to postpone them for other things instead, which is awesome. It's awesome, but we want to make sure you all get that extra bits for helping support us. We have been releasing early listens to these for patrons to get it early. They do have the opportunity to come and join us live as we record the discussions or the reviews. We've got Casper in the chat with us now as well, and it's been fun actually getting to do episodes like this with everybody. So I very much appreciate the support, and thank you.
We are looking to do more perks going into the new year, so hopefully it'll be a little quiet in the lead up to Alien Day. We are working on a pin at the moment to finally get out to our supporters. So among some other things, we are brainstorming for a little extra perks, extra goodies to just let you guys know that, again, we really appreciate your support for what we do here, because Aaron and I both work full time now. I have less lazy days for myself, so to be able to devote this kind of energy to the site, it really helps empower us with that.
And it's been nice to see so many of you at events as well. This year in particular, both Adam and Hunter as well. We've all got to see some of you in person at like San Diego, London Film and Comic Con, Liverpool as well. For me, it's nice to actually get to meet you people and see you in person and shake hands, and it's been really cool, and I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, likewise. For those that I met in Austin as well as San Diego, it's been cool to meet you and get to know you a little better in person. And you too, Hunter. We met for the first time in Las Vegas, so that was a lot of
I
fun.
was going to say I got to meet Mr. RidgeTop here for the first time this year in person. I got to speak with him. I also got to meet another community member here on the Discord and the forums, Alo. So that was really cool to meet them as well. But
You
yeah,
joined us on the streams as well.
Yes, you also joins us on the streams, on the Sunday streams. So it's been really great to get to know you guys, and Mikey. I can't forget Mike's Monsters. Got to meet him as well. So it's been a pleasure.
I don't know if I actually mentioned meeting Dave at London. There's been too many streams and episodes, but yeah, just to bring that out, getting to speak to Dave Fisher at London was great. So yeah, I can't wait to meet more folk and continue interacting with everybody, whether it's online, whether it's in person, because community is a huge part of what drives me. Doing the content for everybody. Just think, some of the editorials and the scripts. We're doing that for you guys as well, and I love it.
Yeah, I do have to say, as a newcomer to the team, you guys don't understand how much work these guys truly do put in for you, and it shows. I think they put their blood, sweat, and tears into the content and the coverage that we put out for you all. So seriously, thank you to all who do support us.
Anyway, are we done? Is this the end of 2025?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, we hope you all have a nice holiday season. Get plenty of Alien, Predator, AvP gifts under your tree. And we will see you all in the new year. What do you want to say?
Don't forget to shop at our Big Bad Toy Store affiliate link if you do want some of those cool collectibles.
Such a shell. Such a shell.
I know. I'm sorry. Just gotta throw that in there.
Don't forget it. Don't forget.
Anyway, this has been Corporal Hicks.
RidgeTop.
Still collating.
TheXenoPlays.
Signing off.